scheduled meeting of March 2nd, 2015. Council. Tony, if you could lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dolores.
Counselor Hammond.
Here.
Counselor Hurley.
Here.
Counselor Cockton.
Here.
Councilor Newsos is unable to attend. Counselor Martino.
Here.
Counselor Rowell.
Here.
Counselor Roberts is unable to attend. Deputy Mayor Berry.
Here.
And Mayor Montanari.
Here. Thank you, Dolores. We're going to move right into public comments. Anyone here this evening wishing to speak for public? Gus?
Good evening, Gus Colantonio, 16 Morrison Avenue. Guess what? I'm going to complain again. Few things tonight, a little bit different from, get away from Morrison Avenue. We're going to go to, which one? Wells Road. As I approach Wells Road from Ridge Road in an eastbound direction, I guess, you know, the first thing that I see, maybe 100 yards from the intersection, is a speed sign of 40 miles per hour. 200 yards, 300 yards after that, it's like, you know, 25 miles per hour because there is a school zone when it's flashing. And there is Emerson Williams. I mean, you know, obviously, people should go a little bit slower than 40 miles per hour. And then you go up the road a little bit before you get to Walker Hill Road, and then you have, like, you know, the entrance to the high school. And as soon as you pass Walker Hill Road, there is another sign there. It says 35. Now, the question that I have, why on one side it's 40 when you approach a school, you leave the school and you see 35? And again, I made a comment before that on Silas Dean, the posted speed is 35, a 4-lane highway. And yet, Wells Road is 40 miles per hour. Paid attention into the center of town in Newington, the same road, 175. In the center of town is 30 miles per hour. Why is it 40 in Wethersfield? Let's go back and let's go back. Let's go to some other place on Silas Dean. When you go on Wethersfield Avenue, well, let me put it this way. A couple years ago, the city of Hartford did some work on Wethersfield Avenue. So before you get to Silas Dean now, there's only one lane going through it. Only one. And after you go past this lane, you have basically three choices. One is to get an on-ramp, and then you have two lanes that keep on going straight. And a few hundred yards down, you find an off-ramp that has to merge with these two lanes. Now, I understand maybe years ago this was okay, but right now, it seems to me that basically the off-ramp lane, Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, it should have its own lane to merge, not to merge, but have one lane instead of merging with the other two lanes. And I also think that basically the traffic coming off the off-ramp, it's much more than the traffic in the southbound direction from Wethersfield Avenue and Silas Dean. Why do we do that? Now, I understand that these are state roads, but they are in the town of Wethersfield. Mr. Rue always says the quality of life. Well, this is part of quality of life when you drive and you, it's very confusing because you don't know. There is a margin. There is a margin right here or a margin there, and you don't need it, you know. Another thing too now. 2 weeks ago we had a storm. It was about Monday or Tuesday. And then on Saturday I was in the northbound direction on Silas Dean in the vicinity of Bonetti Florist. Past that in the vicinity between Church and Morrison Avenue. And this gentleman was walking on the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I see him going into the road and walking on the road. and I took a look at it. After 3 or 4 days, he could not go through on a sidewalk. This is crazy in the town of Wethersfield, where most of us are all old, and yet we don't even clean the sidewalk. The same Saturday, I was coming out of, Marsh Street, I guess, in my regular direction. And guess what? That famous, the intersection that we're designing now, and one guy was completely on the wrong side of the road. So when the public say that this was confusing, this is a confusing intersection, I know why. Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening? Yes, sir.
Paul Milne, 52 Livingston Street in Wethersfield. Our least favorite topic, snow. For some reason, I'll just stretch this straight to the point what's going on here. For some reason, I don't know why, and I tried to call about this. I live on a corner house, Livingston and Lexington. It's a T intersection. And after the roads are clear and people can get around and the workers have, done the safety issue, make sure that we can focus on our town, they come back and they do a little bit more work on the roads. Well, for some reason, what this guy does is he clears the intersection by going back and forth and directly putting the entire pile of snow right on my corner, exactly on the corner. He just puts it perfectly there. There's a widened sidewalk there. There's sidewalks on both sides of my house. There's one of those rubberized handicap mats for nice access and everything. So I don't know why that in the process of clearing it has to go there. Why couldn't it just go 10 feet to the right of the corner or crossed on the other side of the corner? But he makes an effort to put it there, and I just don't understand why. I called about it, and it's frustrating because you probably get a million calls. This isn't done, that isn't done. I tried to suggest this, and I was told the supervisor knew what they were doing, and they would take care of it. And I said, well, can the supervisor call me, and I'll try to explain it in detail. Maybe we're just not getting through. So my next recourse was just to come here and mention it. It seems like a waste of time and effort because the trucks do come around. I'll also say another good thing about the situation. The trucks do come back around afterwards doing troubleshooting. And the truck actually came down the road, and my son was down there trying to shovel through the corner there, and he stopped and said, can I give you a hand? He was almost done, so he just said, no thanks. But the offer was made, but that's still more time and effort. And if they're doing that, one thing I was told when I called is that does happen on a lot of corners. I don't know the truth of that or not, but that's what I was told. So if we're not only making the effort to put it there and take it away in my corner, how many other times are we doing this, going around town doing this? Just doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's something I don't know. There's a reason it has to go there and then be moved. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Young?
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. At the last town council meeting, I had made some negative comments regarding our Charter Revision Commission. And of course, then a citizen came up and wasn't happy with some things I said and took exception to a number of issues. But I want to clarify because I didn't have a chance to come back and rebut. And, I look upon the Charter Revision Commission as being the leader of the rules and regulations for this town. They're the people that are going to, or we expect them to, fine-tune, develop new processes, so as issues happen, they can be taken care of going forward. And the town manager sits in on the meeting, and he gives a lot of input as to issues, and it's up to them to figure out what to do. But here we are. We just gone through 10 years, 11 years, 12 years since the last charter revision. And during that time, it was uncovered that we had unfunded pension liabilities. Since only the last couple of years, you created something called OPEC Trust. There was a $64 million shortfall. Town manager says it was 60. I don't know which is true. But the fact is, that charter revision 10, 11, 12 years ago had people sitting on it that were prior, former, whatever you want to call them, town council members. They knew how the budget worked. They were put there specifically because they knew. And what did they do 10, 12, 13 years ago on the charter revision regarding unfunded pension liability? They did nothing. They did nothing. And now, today, in our budget, we have to double up the money. We have to double it up because the failure of that charter revision, actually it goes back even to the prior charter revision, because this has been going on for how many years, where we were not funding, where we were underfunded. And these are the people that should have been looking at it and fixing it and setting the policy of how it's going to work going forward. And they didn't. So here we are today. We just saw, as I just mentioned, the OPEC thing. We're lacking ethics. Even though we have an ethics commission, what good is it? We saw 2 years ago with the Stacey Hodges situation where whatever happened, there was no penalties. Matter of fact, the town paid for the lawyers for both sides. And all the costs the town paid for. Those charter revisions back in those earlier years should have been formatting the processes when something like this happens and make sure that it will work properly. If they didn't touch it, where were they? I criticize the charter revision that you have going on right now. All they're looking at is some little words here and there. They're not looking at the things that we need going out into the future. We need an ombudsman in this town for problems. And I mentioned that last time. We're lucky now, the feds have come to Connecticut. We can go to them and talk. Transparency. Charter revision should be putting in the charter how transparency should be put on the website. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have a website. We have one now. Something brand new. But again, charter revision should be setting up the policy, the procedure, the reasons why, that whole thing. They've done nothing. We have another problem called nepotism. Address that? Not at all. We don't address nepotism in this town, even though we have it. And that's the charter revision that should be doing that. I don't know how we expect to move up. All we're doing is continuing moving forward, but at a level that does not include going up. It's just a level going forward. That's all we're doing. It's called existence. We're not elevating ourselves in our town by setting the policies and the reasons and the processes to where when problems come along, they can be handled. Again, I go back to that issue of the ethics, the fiasco that we had here with the town council. Ethics people sent something to you to be a you said it wasn't your responsibility. There was all kinds of nonsense. The public had no idea what was happening. There should have been a process, and it should have been a legal one, and it should have been a correct one. But the prior charter revisions didn't do nothing. And the ones you have right now are doing nothing. So, and look, didn't we get slapped by the state of Connecticut not long ago for $680,000 for misstating reimbursement amounts to the state of Connecticut? The people that did that walked away. Everybody seems to walk away when they give it to the town. They make errors, they're great volunteers to come on board, and they carry no liability. They should carry liability. Liability to the fact that if they step out of the bounds of what the laws or rules are, that's when they're held. They should have immunity as long as they stay within. But when they step out, and we don't have anything here to where we can bring those people up on the carpet. They just, town pays for both sides. Town pays for the misrepresentation to the state of Connecticut for reimbursement of funds. The town pays for double now, OPEC. I mean, it just goes down the line, Mayor. You need to lead. And you need to bring that in, that charter revision into our century. They're still back in the horse and buggy days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to council reports. Are there council reports this evening? No. Jeff?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. A few things. Earlier this evening, the OPEB, the town's OPEB trust met, and we met with our financial advisors, fiduciary investment advisors, and we meet, this is the second meeting, so we meet semi-annually to go over the performance of the town's OPEB trust. The trust, just to remind you, was formed about a year and a half ago, and it's basically to fund future retiree health obligations. And the trust has, we've contributed probably about $10 million into it between town contributions and employee contributions. It's earned over that period of time about $1.3 million, which is about an 8% return, so it's done well. And the committee decided tonight to implement a couple of changes in terms of the portfolios that we're going to invest the money in, particularly making some changes in the fixed income portion and the international equity portions of it, which look to be offer us higher returns with no incremental risk. So the full committee met and heard a good presentation from our advisors. There was also, I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee, and we did a joint meeting with the board's Finance Committee with the town auditors to review some incorrect accounting for certain grants on the board side that were uncovered in the audit. We reviewed them. I think the hope on all concerned is that this is just a one-time thing, and that the accounting for it will go correctly next time. And also at the meeting, we talked through the review of the budget for calendar 15-16, or for fiscal 15-16. And just to remind folks, we're going to be getting the board budget at our next meeting. The town manager's budget is, excuse me, due to us the first week of April. The town budget meeting is April 20th, and then the council is going to spend a Saturday at the end of April reviewing presentations and discussions of the budget by the various department heads. And then the hope is that we'll actually adopt the budget hopefully the first week of May, if not the second week of May. We have to have it done by May 15th, so that's the schedule ahead for us. I did not make an insurance committee meeting because I was traveling for work, but it appears that, you know, as opposed to being over budget, it appears that we're more or less on budget net for healthcare costs this year, which is better. But you may recall last several years we were $1 to $2 million below budget, which is one of the reasons we have $11+ million in this OPEB trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Summary. Tony?
Since the last meeting, the two subcommittees of EDIC met. The marketing subcommittee reviewed the shop business director, which has been adding more local businesses to it so that people can go out there and find local vendors for whatever they're looking for. And they continue to work on the web link called Why Wethersfield to tell people who are looking either to set up a business in town or move to town where to find information. There'll be a link to existing stuff, so they're not going to be recreating the wheel. They're working on that right now. And also the budget subcommittee, EDIC, met to review their upcoming budget needs. They increased some stuff and decreased others, but overall their requirements are coming in at a lower budget than last year, or the current year. And then the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee met since the last time. The group continues to work on their spring fair, which is to be held on May 21st at the community center. And just to let people out there know, seniors, that on July 12th, the Army, the United Methodist Youth Camp with adult subdivision, will be back in town. They'll be in here for the weekend to do home repairs and yard work for the elderly. Anyone that needs work done is asked to fill out an application through Social and Youth Services.
Thank you, Tony. No other reports? Council comments this evening? Donna?
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, to the town manager of where we're at with the snow budget.
I sent out something a couple weeks ago that we were over budget already.
Yep.
And I imagine we're over budget more by now. I'll ask physical services to do an accounting this week after the current
After
storms.
tomorrow?
After tomorrow. But I imagine we're somewhere around $200,000 in the hole, at least.
Other comments? Tony?
I know it's a day early, but I'd just like to wish the mayor a happy birthday tomorrow.
Thanks, Tony. After 55, they don't matter. Other comments? Jeff, anything?
No, it snowed yesterday, it snowed tomorrow, it'll snow. Now, hopefully, we'll run out of winter before we run out of money. We'll find out though by the end of March, but we're still in good shape, even though we did exhaust what was budgeted. We're still well within the contingency reserve in the general fund, so we don't have budgetary issues at this point. And we've not had issues getting salt either, so those two things combined
that's
still provide, good news as the weather continues to impact us all. Yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything else, and Mike's gonna give us an update on where we are with the intersection project.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mike, for coming.
Bear with me for a moment.
Do you want the other mic?
Okay, technology works.
Gonna fix that filter, Mike? That sounds like an urgent message.
Gotta be able to get there.
As you will recall, the town held a public informational meeting on January 29th in this room to discuss the initial plans we shared with you a few weeks back. It was a very positive meeting, I think. There were probably, some of the town council were there, but we probably had about 50 people in attendance that night, providing some very, very good comment to us. We heard our designers from Luke's Associates make a presentation to us. And probably within the 3 to 4 week period After that, we've also received a lot of email comments, a lot of folks just stopping into the engineering office to share their thoughts and concerns and stuff, which we've obviously forwarded all that to the design firm. And the design firm has taken all of that stuff, compiled it all, and what you see before you is slight revisions to the plan, but I thought it was worth at least sharing with the council and basically getting the green light from you folks to proceed with the final design. The biggest change that this plan represents over the one that was presented is we've relocated the crosswalks more towards the center of the intersection. So it becomes more like a typical four-way intersection. One of the most troublesome crosswalks is the one that crosses right through the center of the Marsh Street Island, okay? What we're proposing doing is eliminating that crosswalk, moving the crosswalk forward to the intersection so we have adequate sight distance from all four corners. And basically the intersection will also, because of sightline restrictions and the ability to see all these pedestrians, it does meet the warrants for a four-way stop sign. So our recommendation is that it will be a four-way stop at that intersection. We've obviously introduced a lot more green space by doing this. We're pulling all of the sidewalks, and our intent would be to use brick sidewalks to extend all of the brick sidewalks that are there to this intersection corner. The actual sidewalks that cross the road, the crosswalks themselves, we're looking at something like an imprinted asphalt. Probably the best example is downtown Middletown. If you've driven through there, you'll see it. It looks colored like a brick walk, but it's actually just an imprint into the asphalt itself. So physical services doesn't have to worry about plowing up bricks or hitting some dissimilar surfaces and stuff when we're maintaining the roads. So there's no loss of parking with this plan. There's no addition of parking either, but there's no loss of parking by this reconfiguration. And that's about it. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
A question on the parking.
Yes.
So there's not going to be any loss of parking on Church Street? Because it looks like that goes back pretty far.
The limits go back pretty far, but right now, because of a fire hydrant on the north side of the intersection and the driveway on the south side of the intersection, it's signed for no parking right now. So
Okay.
The existing limits of where there is no parking will remain.
Done.
Mike, can you just help me understand again the purpose of that island on Church Street? It's not gonna be raised, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it's to kind of alert to something is different, but
Yeah, when you're driving from Church Street towards Marsh Street, okay, without that island, because of the differences in radiuses, you're gonna have a tendency to drift towards the center, okay? What this will do is channelize you and align you with the lane on the opposite side, on the Marsh Street side, okay?
But that doesn't happen today. I mean, as a frequent user of that intersection, I understand.
Just because, yeah, I guess it's because, if you can see, this is where the existing curb lines are now.
Yep.
Okay, on the backside of the green, okay? Obviously, there's not much there, but on this side here, because of the wide radiuses, you're gonna tend to, align yourself towards the middle of the intersection, okay? And that puts you straight into that island on the Marsh Street side. So really, all it's doing, I mean, we could accomplish the same thing with, centerline striping or something like that. But our designer has recommended just using a material similar probably to this imprinted asphalt or something to just denote where that lane is and channelize the direction of the car straight into that lane.
It's not gonna be raised up in.
It will not be raised up, no.
There's nothing demarcating it except the color?
That's correct.
And I didn't understand, when you say it's not happening now, Donnie, you mean they're not drifting over now?
No, They're not, at least, you know, when I come down, because I'm a frequent user of that intersection to go to the highway, and coming across, other than having to pull out so I can see, because you can't, because of the current parking, and there's no, I mean, and there's always parking on both sides of the street, so you have to be aware of where the cars are. You know, when you're coming through there, but I don't know.
This question came up, Mike, in the public comment as well, and I remember heading west on Church, coming from Maine, so assuming you're taking a right-hand turn on Maine to Church, there's parking there now, right? And that will
Yes.
continue?
That will continue.
So
yes.
with this configuration and adding that center, even though it's visual, and the question that I recall came up with several people in the public was like, aren't you narrowing that so that it's gonna be difficult to pass? Going that way? I mean, assuming, you're not restricting somebody from drifting over onto that color,
No, you're good.
but
There's no parking until you get to the end of that rumble strip, that demarcation because of the fire
Right.
hydrant.
there's nothing on the, heading west from Main Street until that demarcation ends?
That's correct. This sign, where the cursor is right there,
Yeah,
that's a
no
no parking,
parking.
that's an existing no parking sign.
Oh, it's that far out? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's
It's
for me off, because I
deceiving.
thought it was
Okay.
closer. I
Yeah.
thought you had cars sooner.
And when you look at the east side, you can see how big that radius is now in front of the Standish House. That's gonna be significantly narrowed, so channelization will be important. Now, we can look at that through final design,
Certainly.
but this is where we are today.
So, you're just trying to get people to stay in a straight path, as opposed to this sort of cockeyed thing that's going on now.
That's correct.
And then the other question I have is, you're changing the sidewalk pattern in front of Standish House so that
We're
the
gonna,
existing sidewalk, is that being superimposed on top there? Just take me
that's
through
right.
that.
Here's the Standish House here.
Yeah.
So the existing folks walk straight down here
Right,
to a handicap ramp,
right,
cross through the island itself.
right.
And then pick up on the other side there. And, you know, what we heard as part of the testimony, scared the life out of us with, the folks, you know, from the museum, when they have the little kids on tour, and they're, you know, walking them along like a bunch of little ducklings, there, and just worried about the cars coming in from Main Street turning left, have no opportunity at all to, you know, there's no controls there at all, so.
Is it a yield sign? What is there any
There
signs?
was nothing.
But
No.
so you're taking, you're proposing.
So what we're
taking that
doing is,
sidewalk out.
right, so starting at the main entrance there by Standish House, we would bring them up to the corner, essentially, and have them cross at the corner. Okay?
Right, and that's going
we'll
much
extend-
further
We'll
into
extend
the
the sidewalk on Marsh Street so that this still, you know, you can still walk down towards Broad Street and stuff, but we would eliminate that crossing here, we would eliminate the crossing through the island itself, and eliminate this ped ramp on this side here.
Other questions? Yeah, Mike?
Have all the businesses had a chance to take a look at the designs?
Yes. Yeah, they were all specifically invited by hand to come to the meeting, and we shared with them the you know, smaller scale thing, so.
They didn't have any concerns?
No issues. You know, the biggest issue would have been parking or any loss of parking, and there really is none.
So what's the timeline now, Mike?
If we have a consensus to move forward, we'll authorize the engineers to get into final design. We'll probably bid later this spring. I'm hoping, you know, maybe April, we'll be out to bid and look to do construction this summertime.
Part of the final design will be budget,
Yeah.
just to make sure we're within our budget,
That's correct.
and if we are, then we can bid as soon as
Yeah.
we're ready.
The overall budget is $225,000, and that includes the design fees.
So are you satisfied that, based on the public hearing from several weeks ago, and now these revisions, that will be sufficient to communicate to the public the changes, or are you anticipating having another opportunity for them to come publicly?
We will still have to go to planning and zoning with the plans, because it is a change in the alignment of the roadway. So there will be an opportunity for the public, you know, to again speak at that point.
Right.
But that's really I guess we would also probably have to hit the Historic District Commission just for material selections, you know, the brick walks and any of the lights. You know, we are going to add 4 lights at the intersection as well, street lights. And those would be the same style that are down there now.
You can see that, it's like a star in each corner.
I mean, it looks like you've addressed everything that came out of the public comments, particularly the four-way stop.
We took very detailed notes. The manager had notes, I had notes, and the engineer had notes. We compared them all, compiled them all, and just went through them one by one in a meeting upstairs, so.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks like everything I recall from the meeting you've addressed, which is good.
I have one more question. Oh, sorry. You didn't answer, you didn't have your question. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I'm sorry I wasn't at that public hearing. Were there bike lanes in the previous rendition that we had for this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And there are 2 on, I guess, the north side of the intersection and the south side. Do they, those 2 5-foot bike lanes, do they continue further north and further south, or are they just in that intersection?
It's just through the intersection.
Okay. Does that take up any space in the lanes? I know it's 10 total feet.
It does, but it's psychological.
Okay.
Essentially, you're narrowing the width that the vehicle will travel in. Okay, I mean, obviously there are state laws that require separating distances from bicyclists and stuff, but this is not a designated bike route.
Okay.
Okay, our Heritage Way comes down and then goes down Hart Street, actually.
Okay, so the bike lanes will not have a marking or anything?
We will put a marking there, yes.
But they won't be over by Broad Street in Hartford. They've actually created green stripe or green lanes for bikes.
Okay.
We won't have that.
No, it was our intention, the DOT calls them sharrows, and it's basically the little symbol of a bicyclist with an arrow, you know, kind of denotes, you know, their space, so to speak, in the roadway.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, you had another question?
Yeah, just what did the police department think about the plan?
They've been involved in every step of the process here, so.
Okay, so they don't think there'll be backups on Main Street with people at the stop signs?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Good to
I
move
think
forward?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you've done a great job addressing the issues that were at the public hearing. I think it is time to move forward and get the process rolling.
Actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
Just
Mike.
one quick question. Now that there will be 2 additional stop signs, would we be doing PSAs, reminders or anything like that to people, new stop sign, 50 feet or something like that?
Absolutely, yes.
That'll be part of the project
Yep.
initiation, once we open it up. There'll be some warning signs and notices and so.
Perfect, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Dolores, you have any communications this evening?
Motion on this?
Oh, do we need a motion to go forward?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Oh, we do, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Motion to authorize staff to undertake final design of the intersection?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? I think based on that conversation, I think we can move to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Very good. Sorry about that. We're going to move into council action. B1A or B, any appointments or resignations, Deputy Mayor?
Move to appoint to the Wethersfield for People Committee with Disabilities, David Carrick, 149 Broad Street, from 3/2/2015 to 6/30/2016. To the Historic District Commission, Daniel Bucknam, 108 Garden Street, from 3/2/2015 to 6/30/2015. To the Tourism Commission, Charles Ford, 249 Ridge Road, and Charles Lyle, from 3/2/2015 to 6/30/2016. And then finally, to the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, this is a correction date for the term ending. It's Henry Hornat, 39 Collier Road, from 2/17/2015 to 6/30/2016.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you, Steve. We have no unfinished business. We will move into B3A, request for a grant submission.
Before we do, should we add?
You want to add
Yes.
this, the agenda item for the
Yeah.
RFP? Okay, can I take a motion to add agenda item, please?
Motion to add diesel and fuel oil bill to the agenda?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. We'll take that on the end, Jeff.
It should be B4A, just the first thing under bids.
Very good. Let me just make a note, B4A. Thank you. Okay, back to 3A. Have a motion.
Motion to authorize the submission of the distracted driving high visibility enforcement grant?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is, we've done this before. As you can see from Chief Chatran's comments, last year resulted in 127 cell phone violations, 5 other motor vehicle violations, car seat violations. So this is important to the police department as they look at limiting distracted driving in Wethersfield. So staff would recommend or request that you allow for the grant application.
Do we have a match on this, Jeff?
Yes, and it's
For
paid
the
for
overtime?
by the PD.
Okay. Questions about this from anyone? Yes, Donna?
I just think it's a positive thing, and I think we need to let the public know the results of this, and more than just here at, during our discussion. I think there has been comment from the public in the past about violations, and I think we were very encouraged to get the grant last year, to really see the emphasis put on this, because I think it's very important.
Thanks, Don, I agree. Jeff, if you could pass on to the chief, maybe we can get a report at the completion of the 2 cycles.
Absolutely.
Back to council for public. Other questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to 3B, adjustments to personnel classifications. Tony?
Motion to approve the job reclassification as requested, effective March 2nd, 2015?
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before you this evening are 3 requests for reclassifications, 2 in the Park and Rec Department to help facilitate the merging of those staffs, as we talked about when we appointed Mrs. Bagley Director of both Social and Youth Services and Park and Recreation. So those 2 reclasses help facilitate that merger. And then Maintainer 1 to Maintainer 2 in Physical Services. The sophistication of some of those duties has evolved, and it more in line with the Maintainer 2 responsibilities than Maintainer 1. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And Mr. Bargerio's been here about a year, right?
He's been here 2.5 now, right?
He's actually been an employee for quite a number of years.
In a different capacity, right?
Yes.
Okay. But in this job. Questions about this?
Budget and Finance did review these, and we've addressed those comments.
Very good. Other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second in front of us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. 3C, authorization for the disposal by sale or auction of a 1981 American LaFrance fire engine.
Motion to authorize for sale or auction a 1981 American LaFrance fire truck?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. On the podium this evening is some additional details on this truck. As you know, we recently replaced this as a line vehicle with the new truck we received a few months ago, which went online a couple weeks ago. So We're just requesting authorization to get rid of it. We don't need it, and it no longer serves a purpose for us. It's if anybody's interested, 1981. It's a 75-foot steel ladder, but there's rung damage, so you gotta get that fixed if you're interested in using it for its intended purpose. But it looks good sitting there.
So Jeff, are we likely to try to sell it privately to another town first before we go to auction? Or what, is there any kind of mechanism or typical advertising mechanism?
We just advertise it, and there's actually websites where you can put old fire trucks on for sale. We'll use, what we use to sell dump trucks and just put it out there and see which comes back the best.
Okay. Questions about that? Pretty straightforward. And the new truck just went into service, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday, correct?
A week ago Saturday.
Good. Okay. We have a motion and a second in front of us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Good.
Motion to award CROG bid number 623 for dime oil.
Second?
Motion and second in front of us. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Asked Sally Katz to go over this one with you. We got very, very favorable bids on diesel and heating oil from CROG for next year, so she'll go over the details. And that was on the podium this evening, that agenda item.
Good evening, Sally Katz, Director of Physical Services. We're in front of you this evening. This is a bid for our fiscal year. So the prices in front of you will be good for a 12-month period, and they're for both the diesel and home and heating oil. The diesel, if you look on the agenda item, we have increased the number of gallons we want to purchase. We have noticed a trend over the past few years with all of the storms that we have been using more and more diesel fuel. We want to be able to lock in at the price instead of running low and having to go out and potentially pay a higher per gallon cost. We did go through CROG, and we got some very favorable pricing while it was low. Once again, it's a commodity, and as we all know, it fluctuates. The pricing here is significantly lower than what we are paying this year. And so it is something that we wanted to lock in and move forward as quickly as possible.
Questions for Sally? Jeff?
Sally, you wrote here, or you and the town manager wrote here, how much the town uses. Does the Board of Education also buy under these bids? Like, they're buying their own diesel for their school buses, right?
Yes, they are. I don't know what their contract is for their buses.
Okay, I'm just, my recollection just from when we attended the board budget meetings is that they were budgeting something closer to $3 a gallon for diesel. So might be helpful as we maybe get to the next meeting, which is when the board presents its budget, to know what they'll be paying, and perhaps what's embedded in the budget as well.
I think it's a good question. I remember I was at that last meeting, and it looked like they were budgeting the same number as this year.
Like $3.
And they use considerably more diesel, obviously, for the buses. They have to pay for that separately from the bus contract, so that's definitely a question we have to pursue.
We have shared this information. I mean, we're in the same office, and so they're also aware of the fact that we have gone out to bid and locked in on this price.
Okay, and I think they indicated that that was not yet.
Yeah, that was.
They had to make a guess in their budget. And I can't remember, do any of their buildings heat with oil, or are they all on gas now?
We are actually transitioning the Little Red Schoolhouse from oil to gas this year. So yes, we are trying to transition as many as we can, but we still do have to, we have some buildings that do use heating oil. And as I said, in the description here, last year we did not purchase oil for the tank here because we were at a significant level. We have used some of that, so it is advantageous for us to refuel that tank. Even still, once again, with the cost going down per gallon, even though we're going to purchase more in home heating oil, we still will come under our projected budget.
Okay. And Sally, just from your recollection, do any of the Board of Education buildings use oil, or are they all on gas?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. That's just another thing.
I think Fred said there were 2 left somewhere in the district. I don't remember which schools. They were still, one of them was a backup and one was still in use, I thought.
They buy through the CROG bid as well, pretty much, or are you not sure?
Yeah, I don't know what their
Okay.
process is at this
Okay,
point.
well, all stuff to be explored.
Good, Don.
Is this something that we can pursue in the light of like a shared bidding process? I mean, it would make sense if it was looked at even more globally so that, you don't know if volume would do anything, probably not, but so that it's one bid and, you know, the accounting of it, it's just another piece that gets allocated to an account.
We would just add gallons to
Right, we would just add
Right.
gallons, it wouldn't change the price, we would just have to be committed, have the commitment at the same time to lock in.
Yeah, I agree. I echo Donna's point. Sally, could you maybe do, this is fine for this evening for us, of course, but if you could look into that tomorrow and just get back to council either by email, just what you learned, whether or not that's an option, because I do recall they were going to hold the same number in preliminary discussion last week. And if possible, it would be great if that number were to actually be adjusted in favor of the town budget, to have it before our next meeting when they're going to present their budget, so they can make that adjustment now. So maybe you can.
We would have to find out that we could add those gallons to
Right.
the bid price.
Right, right. We have to see whether or not we can add the gallons and whether or not the price that we locked in on, if we would be able to up our
Of course.
amount
Sure.
for that.
Yeah, absolutely, but I would think, but at the same time, even if that weren't true, it would be hard to understand the discrepancy with such a big difference in gallon charges, even if they were on their own, so I would love to hear more about that, so, thank you. Other questions on this bid? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Okay. We have introduction only on 2 resolutions, and then I think we are moving on to minutes, approval of the minutes of the 17th.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any changes, additions? Have a chance to look at them? Tony?
Just one on page 2, under council reports, under the CIP budget, where it said that we'd finished the review of all town departments and the Board of Education request. It showed it was reviewed by all departments of the Board of Ed request, so
That's
that could
right.
be corrected.
Thank you, Tony. Any other changes, additions? Okay, with that change, motion in front of us. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion passes. Public comment? Any additional public comment? Gus?
Good evening again, Gus Colantonio, 16 Morrison Avenue. That was a nice little presentation, and glad to see that basically they're going for a 4-way stop. I think that's the way it should have been done originally, but anyway, that's good. I also liked the idea that they recycle the sidewalks in a way and, make it where it belongs and not the way it was, crossing in the middle of Marsh Street. I'm still puzzled why we need the island on Church Street in the vicinity. It's an intersection. That's where we do need more room. So I don't understand that. If I were in charge, I don't think I would propose that island. Also, if you really look at the northern, I guess the north curb line for Church Street as you approach it. The proposed goes in a little bit, couple feet. Why? It seems, I know, I understand the radius and whatnot, but why the width in the intersection or before you approach the intersection of Church Street has to be excluding or including the island has to be narrower than normal Church Street, couple feet? Why? I don't agree with that at all. The question was made basically that we have a bicycle path and or bicycle, whatever it is, share it, 4 or 5 feet. But why do we have 11-foot lanes? This is an intersection. Standard lane widths are 12. We have the width already. Why make it smaller? Why make it 11 and 12 and whatnot? Why not have a little bit more where you have to share or you are adjacent to a bike path? now I'm trying to remember, in front of the restaurant, the parking is not perpendicular to the road. It's like, on an angle. And I questioned before, why does the curbing, the proposed curbing there, is perpendicular? Should it be the same way as you approach that parking lot? The parking in front of the pizza place, I don't know how deep it is, 20 feet or, but it should not be any more than 20 feet. If there is more, I think, we're just giving them more room that they don't need. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Gus. Anyone else? Mr. Young?
Good evening again, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I'd like to comment on the way you purchase your gasoline and diesel fuel. I thought under shared services, we had the whole system working, where the town was, where we had shared services. Obviously, your gasoline and diesel fuel isn't shared service at this point. If you need 100,000 gallons of diesel fuel for the town side, and you're gonna pay X amount of dollars, but you need another 100,000 gallons, this is just a number, and you're gonna pay some other dollars, why aren't you buying 200,000 gallons worth of diesel fuel for something less? You buy in volume. I thought you people were doing this. How many years have I been talking, and you've been talking, about shared services? And right now, tonight, we find out we don't have that going on between our Board of Education and the town side. The poor young lady says she doesn't know what they're doing. Somebody in this town should have known what both the town and the board needed, and it should have been put out for bid together. That's how business is, but I guess, again, we come back down to the old thing. We're still working in the 1700s here in this town. You got to step up and become aggressive and work in an intelligent manner. And by buying in volume, you're going to save some money. I guess it would be of interest, Mayor, to know and this young lady did not tell us tonight how much each gallon of diesel, each gallon of oil heating fuel, or even how much each gallon was going to cost. But it would be interesting to see what the board has in their budget for the same items. Are they the same amount of money? Did they get a better deal than you did? Or what? Or nobody got a good deal. You all paid high. You all paid high because you didn't buy in bulk from one for the diesel fuel, for the gasoline, in the multiple. And then we hear about the state of Connecticut has a buying operation too, and we do hear the board talking about dealing with them and making purchases. Why aren't we? We probably are, but we have to work as a unit. It's like this town is set up like, here's the Board of Education, and here's the town side, and they both operate separately. They should be working together. I understand that you folks are talking to the board all the time, and you got a good relationship. What happened to the diesel fuel, the gasoline, and the fuel oil? I just don't understand it. I've talked for a number of years about shared services, and I condemned how poor you did on shared services, and tonight we saw the complete evidence of how poor you did. I wouldn't be proud of what you did. You're just like throwing money away if you're not bringing your resources and your needs together and getting it at the rock bottom price. I'd like to see, again, what the board has, because they've already bought it, or they've gone on contract, I'm sure. I don't know for sure, but if they have it in their budget, it's there, right? The same like on your side. It'd be interesting to see what each one of them is paying for the same product and where they're getting it from, and go back and look. Go back and look over the last 5 years, how much the town paid for the same item and how much the Board of Education paid for the same item. Going back at least 5 years. And see who made out. I know, Mayor, it's a boring subject, but it's about money. And you should be out there saving money. Thank you very much and good night.
I have an update on that.
Oh, please, sure.
The Board of Ed did bid through CROG like we did. They got the same price we did for 51,000 gallons of diesel fuel.
But if you bought double, if you bought...
No, you gotta, wait a minute,
Excuse me,
wait.
we're not,
Let me
we're not
finish.
engaging, Bob.
I wanna
He's just
explain
providing an
this.
update.
The CROG bid includes 30 towns, all buying at the same time. So there's hundreds of thousands of gallons of diesel fuel bid at one time.
Why did this young lady say that?
She wanted to verify to make sure that they did piggyback the CROG bid before she said anything.
Thank you for the correct facts on that, Mr. Manager.
Thank you.
We have anything else this evening? Motion to adjourn, may I accept?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Chad.
Gasoline, I know they get through us because they use our pumps. I thought they did.
Yeah, Sally took notes.